Musa, NTA News.
Like we said earlier, we told you that today is International Day for Mine Awareness, which is meant to educate people on landmine-prone environment, increase safety and reduce risk of death in landmine-affected areas. To speak more on that, I have with me Ambassador Roy Oyame Ohideve, who is a former military officer. You're welcome to Panorama.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, how can one easily spot a hot zone area?
Well, the mine itself, it's a device that is manufactured to curb incursion, especially to reduce human casualty, and incursions that concern stealth movements, like covert movements, are also one of the types. So we also have water mines, we have land mines. Water mines curb incursions from water to land attacks, while land mines curb incursions from land to land attacks. Now, for the air, you can't place a mine there. So it was developed to have the Patriot missiles that can fly into the air and search out an aircraft. So in all of this, it is to help human casualty, not to be there combating the enemy. When they come secretly, they meet the minefield. Now, there are designs of mines that go for anti-tank, where a tank, it's a pressure, all of them usually have a pressure switch, where you press pressure on it and it detonates. So if I'm a human personnel and I step on an anti-tank mine, there is every possibility that it may not go off. But there are anti-personnel mines. So that anti-personnel mines are usually put around the anti-tank mines, because when a tank is moving, soldiers also follow it on foot to get into an enemy territory. So the joy of it then was that most of the areas that we have mines laid, they are designated. They are penciled out. Everybody knows mine field. So if you have the expertise to breach it without your enemy seeing you, you can breach it and come in to attack. The World Convention that held together agreed that you should designate a minefield. So then everything was conventional. Everybody is agreeable to the fact that we have hostility, we are going into combat, this is your uniform, this is my uniform, and there are rules of engagement. Gradually, we got into terrorism. We now started to have roadside bombs. We now started to have improvised explosive devices, and this became a challenge.
So how do we now dictate how, for maybe an ordinary person, just an individual going, how can we say, okay, you have a landmine here, what are the signs?
Where you should see mines now, industrially produced mines, we will talk about the IEDs. We have to separate them. Industrially produced mines, they have a structure. They are produced, you will see it written on it, and the manufacturer's name is written on it. So if, like, most people that come across them are farmers, because forestry has taken over most of those places where security measures were put in place against incursion. So because we didn't have boundaries laid out properly, so to prevent enemies coming in, mines were laid in open fields. Then you now concentrate on the areas where you can use human personnel to protect. So most of those areas are in forest regions where you might expect that farmers will come across them, or construction of buildings, cities.
What about the IEDs?
The IEDs are more dangerous.
Yes.
They are more dangerous because they are already prepared in covert means. You can see an IED in a Coca-Cola bottle. You can see an IED in a laptop.
So how do you identify?
So there are means to identify. Now, if you didn't put a laptop in a place, we walk into the studio now, we see a laptop here, and we didn't put it there. You should have a security unit that should be immediately informed.
Okay.
Now, your security units must first of all observe the object. When you observe the object, you might come across abnormality in its formation. You might see oily stains around it. You might notice any form of external wirings. You might notice any form of attachments to it. You don't say it's another design. You know ordinarily that this shouldn't come with it, or maybe it's placed close to another item too to give it buffer. Because if you want to use an explosive device and you are using a smaller object to create it, you might put it near a diesel tank, you might put it near a petrol tank. So when it detonates with its small nature, it can use that as a booster to aggravate the effect.
Now, do we have enough equipment to detect, all this? Do you think we do have it now?
Having an equipment without utilizing it is a waste of resources.
Okay.
Now, most of the government acquisition of equipment are tailored towards identified implementation. Like right now, there is need for minesweepers, there is need for mine detectors, especially improvised explosive detectors, because the mine detectors, minesweepers, like what we do in the army engineers in those days, where you use prodders to check the soil to know if there is a metal under, then you sweep around it to bring it out in any way. But when you have a minesweeper and all of that, are they designed now to get towards identifying improvised explosive devices? Because now it's an unconventional war, it's a terrorist situation within communities that are habited. So you will be very careful with the kind of devices you buy now. You must tailor your device purchase to meet the kind of mines laid that you want to identify.
Now, you talked about the community now. Let's go to, the situation we have in Borno State, where we have the Boko Haram crisis that have ravaged that environment. Now, what actions do you think can be put in place to ensure that that place is safe for the inhabitants in future?
Yeah, the major thing we need is awareness, which NTA is doing right now, which is very good. There are also so many security organizations in Nigeria right now that are really creating awareness. Now, when you create awareness, the civilian populace have opportunities to penetrate the avenues where those explosive devices can be planted more than the uniformed personnel. Because uniformed personnel restrict their movement to surveillance activities, patrol activities, but we are the civilians. We can go and have our excreta in a tight corner. We can go and sell goods. We strolling within our communities. We can see an object that is strange. When you see an object and you suspect that it should not have been kept here, like roadside bombs, like bus stops where people gather to board a bus in the morning and you hear there was an explosion, it reduced. Why? Because there became awareness. People don't just see a nylon bag lying down and just go and pick it. Now they call the emergency numbers, security agencies come, condone off the area, and they try to neutralize it. So awareness is very key. If you say you want to use gadgets in all of it, our eyes and our presence, our permutations, we see more and we hear more than the security agencies. So we must create more awareness. We must put banners. We must put notifications around that these are the steps to take if you see suspicious packages, abandoned boxes, abandoned items.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Ohedeze, for coming on Panorama.
Thank you very much.
I wish we could speak more on this, but we are running out of time. Now we move on to other stories now. The importance of the study of English and philosophy cannot be overemphasized in education. This was brought to the fore at a lecture organized to mark the 55th anniversary of the Department of English, University of Lagos. Tola Adebule, who was there, reports that the lecture was also held to honor English and literary icon John Pepe Clark.
The guest speaker, Gabriel Darab, in his lecture titled The Humanities and Redemption of Africa, raised questions concerning the significance and fundamentals of education, as he also identified the decaying standard of education in Africa and the need for urgent attention in the sector.
Be educated to know that the greatness of the world and all the landmark developments in the world were started by black people. It's a small point, but it will help to stabilize us psychologically.
Chairman of the occasion, former Delta State Governor Emmanuel Uduaghan, who was represented by Chike Ogia, in his remarks stated that a solid education foundation remains the only solution to the country's current economic situation.
One of the speakers, if you remember, said that it's just a paltry 3% of our national budget that is devoted to education. And we're also giving the background of how South Korea, a country that has nothing, absolutely nothing but mountains, no natural resources, how it has developed in 30 years. What did they do? They put so much money into their budget for education. And I think that's what Nigeria needs to do. That the curriculum should be revisited, rejuvenated, in such a way as to reflect the African thinking and the African environment. So that for me is, but you see, it provides a platform for us to exchange ideas, to put some very vibrant ideas into the public domain for policymakers to listen to.
John Pepe Clark is the first African to become an English professor. In Lagos, Tola Adebule, NTA News.
Well, that's how far we can go today on Panorama, which came to you from Lagos Network Center. We thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.